So the green challenges were challenges that were issued to campus users to develop solutions to improve sustainability at all 5 universities working to implement the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. There's 4 common themes that were chosen for this. Number 1 was actions to support and enhance biodiversity. Number 2 was practices that bring university closer to zero waste. Number 3 was reducing the carbon footprint relative to transport. And the 4th was reducing the environmental footprint of catering at the universities. So there was 25 green challenges that were chosen, 5 at each university. And from that, we chose 10 to present at the UNI-ECO Summer School. So our first team that's up is the Bouge Finance from University of Montpellier. And this project has developed a program of interviews and social media pieces for students to help them understand what green finance is and what it can do for a more sustainable planetary future. So with that, I'd like to hand over to Bouge Finance to share your screen and show us your presentation. You will have 7 minutes to make your presentation. You will be timed, and I will come in at 7 minutes to tell you that your time is up. And after that, we'll have 7 minutes for questions and answers for your session. And just a reminder to all participants that we are recording all sessions. Thank you.
So hello everyone. I hope you hear us clearly and you see the screen. Okay, perfect. So hello, we are Matthias and Nicolas from University of Montpellier, and we are here to present our project, Bouge Finance, which translation to the English is Move Your Finance.
Hello everyone, my name is Nicolas Jean-Pierre. I have a master's degree on coastal area and marine management, and also a university diploma in green finance. And since 2020, I'm a volunteer for the Soul Rider Foundation Europe in France. And now I'm going to let Matthias present himself.
So hello, I'm Matthias André. This year I did the master's degrees in finance, and like Nicolas, I specialize myself in green finance with a university diploma of Montpellier. So now you know who we are. I need your full attention for a few seconds because I'm going to ask you like a very simple question. Like when I say the word finance, what do you think about? When we ask this question to a lot of people, like our family or students at the University of Montpellier, they see that. A man in a huge building wearing a suit and dealing with a lot of money. Last but not least, they only think that these people who work in finance just think about making money and they don't care about the planet. With our new media, Bouge Finance, we want to show to the largest number of people that there is an alternative to traditional finance to tackle climate change that is called green finance.
To educate the audience, we decided to interview experts on different green finances topics. Since March 2021, we have been interviewing 4 experts, as we can see in this slide. The first one is Laurette Philippot, who is head of private finance campaign at Friends of the Earth. The second one is Adrien Nguyen, who is co-founder of the French first degree in green finance. The third one is Sébastien Duchesne, who is also co-founder of the French first degree in green finance with Adrien Nguyen, and also former banker. And finally, Thi Hong Van Hong, who is chairholder on social and sustainable finance. All the work with them is separate in 3 parts. First, exchanges, approval of interview questions, and finally, the interview of them. We have a video to share with you. We have created it especially for this summer school. This is an extract from the first 3 interviews we made. A few seconds, please, for technical issues.
La finance verte, c'est également la finance comme outil, j'insiste sur le mot outil, comme moyen au service de la transition écologique.
Et la finance verte va consister à déplacer
l'ensemble de l'argent qui est investi dans l'économie sale, l'économie brune, l'économie fossile, et la réinvestir, c'est-à-dire faire vraiment un transfert vers une économie plus vertueuse.
Les banques françaises, notamment, ont augmenté depuis la signature de l'accord de Paris leur financement aux énergies fossiles en moyenne de 19% par an.
Je crois que l'écologie, c'est le sujet majeur de demain, mais c'est aussi le sujet majeur d'aujourd'hui. Et donc, il est urgent de travailler sur ces sujets pour, à notre petite échelle, faire avancer les choses.
So thank you for watching. A few seconds, please, for this. These videos, these interviews aren't even published yet because we have a principle, the regularity. We want to publish one interview weekly, so we are waiting to reach about 6 interviews to launch our media. We have decided to share a short format interview of 5 minutes maximum because we want to have dynamic content on Instagram and LinkedIn. But our work didn't stop here. We have also written publication for green finances concept. You can see at the end of the slide an example of a written publication we will share on Instagram and LinkedIn. We have also analyzed Instagram's algorithm. Quiz and news in stories have appeared as good ways to interact with our audience. Otherwise, creating reels, which are short videos about 30 seconds, should allow us to reach a larger audience.
So now you have in mind the structure of a project, you need to know how we improve ourselves during the last few months with Bouge ta Finance. Before this project, we didn't have any skills in journalism and social media communication. We started from scratch and we learned step by step all the skills we need to develop our project. For example, we learned to use different software like iMovie, Canva, and Photoshop. After, we had the chance to discuss with an interview expert to discuss about the best structure of our video for our social media pages. To conclude, the project Bouge ta Finance is a real step forward in our career because it allows us to discuss with green finance experts and at the same time develop very important professional skills.
As you have understood during this presentation, the goal of Bouge ta Finance is to reach the maximum of people. So we are actively researching green finances English speakers. So if you are in the green finances sector or you know somebody in there, you can contact us on our email address or on Instagram or in LinkedIn pages that you can see at the end of the slide. And now we would like to thank UNI-ECO for their support throughout the development of the project. And thank you all for your attention. We hope that you are interested in our project Bouge ta Finance. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was wonderful. Thank you, Matthias and Jean-Pierre. So anybody can ask a question through the chat function. I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions. But to start off with, I would really like to know, were you surprised that banks were increasing their investment in fossil fuels by 19% per year after the Paris Agreement was enacted? That really surprised me.
Yeah, but it was like we don't have all the data in like in Europe or in Ireland or I don't know in our country, but we didn't have this data. But it was the head of private banking sector in the who told us this data, and because like is one reason we create these pages on social media, because we think like, okay, green finance and the environment, everyone knows that we need to change some things, but a lot of banks and financial institutions don't change something. They just do like most of the time greenwashing. So we want to share with our different pages that there are different alternatives to like not very common person. And it's the main goal here of Bouge ta Finance to share like for like a student or like another person, what I can do with my saving or with my money to change the like change to a low carbon economy.
Very good. And we have a question in from Gergel, who asks, which audiences do you hope to reach on Instagram?
For Instagram is like, because like for LinkedIn is more like professional person, but for Instagram it's like more for students, because we know like most of our friends are in Instagram, most of young people are in Instagram. Sure. And it's why we want to develop this project on this platform, because like a lot of ONG, a lot of association are in like, I don't know, have a website, but they are not very active on social media. So yeah, it's why we want to share our video on this page to sensibilize like the student and the young people in general. Very good.
And Elodie has a question. She's asking, she's asking, is there any legal is there any legal kind of inviting purpose for banks to invest in green finance? So would they be enticed in any legal way to invest in green finance?
Like a legal, like there are some law about that?
Yeah, are there any kind of regulations that would be kind of favoring banks that would invest in green finance?
Okay, okay. Like now we know in France we have some, like, for example, like, I don't know if there are like a legal rate for like saving for green finance for banking or institutional sector, but we know for example in France we have a law for companies who are higher than 100 employees. They must have a quotation of ESG, is environmental, social, and governance marks, for who know which are to explain to the people like how the companies work for social issue, environment issue. But we don't know exactly what, like if they are like a law for a minimum investing for the banking sector in green finance. No, for the moment it's not, like, I know it's working for, it's currently like discussing for at the European issue issue, but not clear for the moment.
Yeah, it seems to be largely an unregulated area. We have another question. Do you think your audience consists of financial decision makers like investors?
No. We don't want just for only like financial or student in finance, or like the more like for us it's very important, like a person in high school, or I don't know, a person who never heard about finance or he don't care about these topics can understand like the goal of the video. Is why we work with experts who are very accurate in their topics, but every time before the interview we try with them to explain, okay, if you need to explain your topics with for a child of 4 years old, how would you do? And it's why we maybe in the future, when our audience will be like very accurate on the topic, we will be maybe more precising on different topics, but for a moment it's more like to like everyone should understand it, but is the main goal of finance.
Very good. And another question from Hugo Fernandez. So what does green finance actually consist of, and what kind of investments can be made?
So yeah, it's a very good question, because this is why we created this thing. I hope you hear me clearly, because I sustain. Okay. Because like today, for I really just say for like for everyone, like for if you want to do saving, like if you want to change to like a normal bank to a more sustainable banks. Like I know in France we have Helios, we have different banks who like publish all the data for what they do with your money, and it's a good thing. We want to share this data with our pages Bouge Finance. And another goal of the green finance, is very to, okay, today you have a lot of money on the market, but a lot of this money are for fossil energy. A lot of companies continue to investing on this energy because it's more, for the moment, is more like you can have more money if you invest in this energy. But you like in finance, it's important to have a rentability, but not only like tomorrow the world is changing, and you must like we are going to have a transitional risk, and with the green finance, you must understand this thing, like, okay, the rentability is important, but at the same time, the planet should be like preserve it because it's very important for the future.
Well, thank you both, Andre and Nicolas, for your beautiful presentation. And it's a very important topic because I know it's something that most of us, including me, are very confused about, and how can we impact that? So thank you very much. So if you could stop sharing your screen, then we will introduce our next team from Trinity College. So our next team is the Sustainable Periods Product Initiative. And this project provides students with information on the availability of sustainable period products and raises awareness of the amount of waste generated by disposable products. So with, this presentation is going to be given by Georgia Dillon and Emma Bowie, 2 students from Trinity College. So I will hand over to Emma and Georgia. And just a reminder, you have 7 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just share my screen now. So thank you so much for having us to speak today. We are Emma and Georgia, and if everyone could go to www.menti.com and put in the code on screen, or Emma will send a link in the chat. So we are Emma and Georgia, 2 third-year law students with a background in menstrual activism and period poverty advocacy at a national and global level. We are so excited to share our UNI-ECO project, the Sustainable Period Products Initiative, with you all today.
Great. So before we look at the relevance of our project, we're going to assess your knowledge of the waste impact of disposable menstrual products using an interactive Menti poll. So if you haven't already, please head to menti.com either by clicking the link in the chat or inserting the code 43959453 at menti.com. So George, if you could just stop sharing your screen and we'll give people a quick minute to do that.
So Emma, I've clicked on the link in the chat and it's bringing me to the page, but it's not entering me into any poll. I'm not sure if anybody.
Yes, I just need to start the quiz.
Okay.
Most people have joined. I think it should be good. Yeah, I can see lots of people have joined there. So we're going to get started. So first question, hopefully everyone can see this now on their phones or computer screens. Crude oil plastic makes up what percentage of disposable menstrual pads? So A, 50%, B, 90%, C, 75%, or D, 60%. What do you think? See the answers? Oh, so most people thought 75%. Interesting. So the correct answer is actually 90%, which is really, really quite significant when you think of just even one packet of disposable pads, just the plastic composition of that alone. So we're going to move on to our next question now. Question 2. On average, menstruators will produce enough menstrual waste over the course of a lifetime to fill A, 2 Mini Cooper cars, B, 1 camper van, C, 1 jumbo jet, or D, 2 minibuses. So if you can try to picture that in your head, think of just the amount of waste generated by one person. Oh, so actually most people got it right. Yeah, it's 2 minibuses. Very good. I think that's a really strong just visual representation, if you can picture that in your mind, of just the volume of waste generated by disposable period products by just one person alone. So thank you so much for participating, and we're going to head back to the main presentation now.
So our project addresses practices that will bring Trinity College closer to a zero waste goal. The project addresses an often overlooked waste issue, the environmental impact of menstruation. Menstrual products are a significant contributor to plastic pollution, whereas menstrual cups can last for up to 10 years. We have many project objectives. One is to educate menstruators on the waste created by disposable period products and then sustainable alternatives, to design a survey to establish attitudes towards sustainable alternatives to period products, and to supply a number of survey participants with sustainable products and report on their feelings about the products directly from new users.
So with those objectives in mind, our initiative really consists of 5 main stages throughout the academic year. And what we hope to do is to strategically publish our information campaign during key thematic weeks in our college, which are run by the Students' Union. So as you can see on the screen, those weeks are like Health Week, Sexual Health Awareness Week, and Green Week, as this is when we think the issue of the environmental impact of menstruation will receive the most attention from the student population. So as you can see from this timeline, our initiative really consists of 2 main parts. Firstly, an information campaign, which will be initiated at the beginning of term, and secondly, a survey, which will be launched at the end of first term, which aims to gauge the waste impact of disposable period products on campus, as well as attitudes towards sustainable products. So, and participants of the survey as well can opt in to enter a raffle to receive free sustainable products and report on how they've made a difference to their individual waste generation. At the end of the second term then, finally, we hope to disseminate a feedback form to establish the impact of the campaign and see whether students have made the switch to sustainable alternatives as a result of being exposed to the information. Next slide, please. So these are the posters and the infographics which we hope to publish for our information campaign, and we hope to disseminate them through many different mediums to engage students in Trinity, including social media platforms, college-wide weekly emails, as well as virtual screens actually physically on campus. So what we hope to do is to educate the student body on statistics regarding the waste impact of disposable period products and provide information on what sustainable products are out there. So as you can see here, be it reusable pads, period-proof underwear, or menstrual cups, to really empower them to make sustainable choices.
So the progress of our project is as follows. We have had our budget completed and approved. We've engaged in discussion with experts and NGOs. We've conducted research into the waste impact of disposable period products in Europe and globally. We've engaged with teams on the Living Lab platform for a hive mind, engaged key stakeholders within Trinity College, including the Students' Union President, Environmental Officer, Sustainability Advisor, and Civic and Engagement Officer, and designed infographics for a social media campaign and a poster for dissemination.
So in terms of our planned engagement, people that we haven't collaborated yet, that Georgia didn't mention, we hope to collaborate with college societies in Trinity so that they may repost our infographics to their own social media platforms. For example, the Environmental Society we think would be interested. And we also hope to engage with period poverty and environmental organisations to help us source sustainable period products from Irish-owned businesses that we can offer to our survey participants. We hope that by sourcing these locally as opposed to abroad, we can reduce the carbon footprint of our project. So in terms of difficulties then, we understand that sustainable alternatives may not be accessible or suitable for every menstruator, and that's really important. We include a disclaimer to this effect in our posters and infographics. We've also had difficulty sometimes engaging key stakeholders who aren't responding due to summer schedules. And then finally, balancing work commitments with other projects has sometimes proven challenging over summer.
So the expected results and impact of our project. We aim to inform students across campus of sustainable alternatives to disposable period products and empower them to make more sustainable choices. We will generate statistical data through our survey, revealing the average volume of waste generated by disposable products per student and the proportion of students who use sustainable alternatives. Our final feedback form will then reveal whether students' consumption behaviours and attitudes towards sustainable products have changed.
Finally, then, in terms of potential for replicability and scalability of our project, we hope that our information campaign could be replicated in other universities across Ireland and indeed across Europe, if received well in Trinity. We also hope that the survey could be replicated in Trinity in future years to determine whether attitudes towards sustainable products have changed in that time period, or whether menstrual waste levels have decreased as a result of students making that switch to sustainable alternatives. So thank you so much for listening. We really hope you learned something new today, whether it was through the poll or through our presentation, and we're really happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Emma and Georgia. That was fascinating. So if anybody has any questions, please enter them into the chat function. I know there's a Q&A function, but if you could enter them into the chat function, that would be great, so we can record those. We have our first question is from Petra Krajacic, and I'm sorry if I've butchered your name, Petra. What are your thoughts on the bamboo pads, especially the more popular ones as flow pads?
Yeah, so kind of at the heart of our campaign is that whatever product is right for a menstruator is the product that they should use. We know that reusable products aren't always accessible for people, such as menstruators that are experiencing homelessness, or in direct provision, which is how asylum seekers come into Ireland because they're not able to, say, boil a menstrual cup or wash a reusable pad. So any switch to products that are more sustainable than just your regular single-use product is an amazing switch.
Great. We also have a question from Elle Hegarty. I've noticed that some prominent influencers have started speaking about menstrual cups in particular. Do you find that attitudes to speaking about periods and sustainable alternatives have already started to change?
Yeah, if I take this question, definitely, and even myself and Georgia, we both have backgrounds as kind of, I guess, in period poverty advocacy and menstrual activism. So we're very excited really about changing the conversation around menstruation and really bringing an environmental dimension to that. So we've definitely noticed, even in the past 2 years, that the conversation around sustainable alternatives has really changed, and people are actually recognizing that yeah, once they're empowered with the right information, they can, as individual consumers, make the switch from disposable period products to sustainable alternatives. So yeah, that's really exciting. And even in Ireland, just in the past year, I think that's even at a policy and national level, that conversation is really happening as well, as we're as politicians and legislators are looking at period poverty legislation. So I really think it is quite an active conversation, both at a macro and micro level.
That's fantastic to hear that it's been looked at the regulatory level. We have a question from Sylvia Gallagher. What do you think is the biggest challenge to getting people to move to sustainable period products?
I think it's probably the stigma around talking about period products in Ireland anyway. I know it's different across the world, but it's probably still quite prominent, because without having that discussion, as Emma said, you can't even look at the alternatives. And I think that's something we were kind of concerned about coming into this, was like, how would the project be accepted, or would people quite understand it? But I think it's been a really, really great conversation opener. For example, when we were doing one of our practice presentations, I was chatting to a man from the college, a staff member, and he said that his daughter recently went out to buy products and he went with her. And they were looking at the plastic percentages of all the products. And that was something that was just so wonderful to me. And I know Emma shared that thought, because without us having this chat, and without people like that, and, you know, menstruators across the world bringing this conversation to the forefront, we'll never be able to discuss the sustainability measures.
Very good. That's great. It's great to hear that the conversation is changing. I was going to ask the question, is this a difficult topic to bring up, do you find? And also, does it depend on the generation or the age of the person?
Yeah, I think the fact that this campaign is aimed towards students, I actually think there will be a good response. We're optimistic about that. I think it might be interesting to see what the response is towards maybe the faculty or the more senior members of staff, to see how they might receive it. But yeah, I definitely think that that it is something that people I think it is just really an overlooked waste issue. Once people are actually informed on just the volume of waste generated by disposable period products, they're like, wow, actually, what can I do to change that? So yeah, we're optimistic that we can really, really target all generations and all audiences.
Yeah. We have a question from Dorina Kozma, who says, who's from ELTE. She says, could you please tell us where we can reach you? It would be lovely to replicate your project later in the other universities from UNI-ECO. So before you answer, guys, I will just tell Dorina that you do have a placeholder, and I know you've been using your Living Lab. All the Green Challenges projects, Dorina, are up on the Living Lab platform on the UNI-ECO website. And I know there was a link posted earlier on, but maybe Gaia could post that for us here. So Emma, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, no, sorry. I was actually just about to get the link for that. Oh, sorry, someone's trying to call. Yeah, and as well, we also hope to, as we said, disseminate our campaign through like different, like the Student Union social media platforms and different societies in Trinity. So we'll definitely post those links and the access to those social media accounts on our Living Labs platform as well. So like if we are, launching our survey on the Student Union account one week, we'll put that up on our Living Labs platform and hopefully people can access it there as well.
Great, and feel free to put a link here as well. And I should have said that to Andre and Nicolas. Please feel free to put any links into our chat function so everybody can access them. Okay, I think that's all we have time for. So thanks very much for the questions. Emma and Georgia, thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. And we will move on to the third presentation, which is the recycling game. It's the quiz recycling game, Where Do You Throw It? And this is from University of Utrecht. So the University of Utrecht campus is equipped with lots of recycling bins, but it's not always clear where to throw an item. So this recycling quiz is designed to educate people on how to recycle in a fun way. And here to present, we have Gergo Suto and, sorry, I'm probably murdering your names, Yoel Buerle. So I will hand it over to Yoel and Gergo to make your presentation. And a reminder that you have 7 minutes, and then we'll have 7 minutes afterwards for questions and answers. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Michelle. I'm going to share my slides in a second. Can you see them now? Okay, then I'm going to start. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gergo. I study at Utrecht University. And in the next couple of minutes, I'm going to tell you about this little game that we have been developing, a game that addresses recycling. But before recycling, let's talk about waste at our campus. So Utrecht University has set a goal for itself to become zero waste before 2030. As you may imagine, becoming zero waste involves a lot of recycling. And so as part of this plan, lots of recycling bins have been placed throughout the campus. In most buildings, you will find 4 to 5 of these bins. You can see some examples in the picture. But as it turns out, recycling is not always so straightforward. Things don't always end up in the right bin, and that contaminates the otherwise recyclable waste. Therefore, we thought, how could we address this issue? And we came up with the idea of a game that educates about recycling in a fun way. Now, in a nutshell, the player would be asked about different items. You can think about chips packaging, tea bags, coffee cups, bioplastic cutlery, and stuff like that. And the question would be posed to the player: in which bin would you throw this or that item? By playing the game, we hope that players will develop better recycling habits. And by doing so, we hope to improve recycling at our university. At the moment, we are 2 people in the team. Joel in the middle, he's also in the call, and myself, Gergo, on the left. Yasha was also part of our team in the early phases, but she has decided to stop with the project. Nevertheless, her contributions are important, so I wanted to dedicate a few sentences to her. And I brought you, for you to get a better understanding of what the game looks like, I brought you some slides from our prototype that we made. So the starting screen could look something like this. I will turn on my cursor, I think you can see it. So let's begin. On the first slide, you get a summary of the available bin types. So there's one for paper, for empty cups, organic waste, plastic, metal cans, and drink cartons, and of course one for general waste. Then if we jump to the first question, it may look something like this. So the question says, imagine you just finished your delicious pizza. Where would you then throw the empty pizza box? And then as players, we are presented at the bottom with the 5 options, and we need to select which bin we think the empty pizza box belongs. Now, unfortunately, we cannot interact much in this session, but from personal experience, I think many people would click the paper bin. So let's try that. Now it turns out that's not the full story, because even though the box is made out of paper, the grease, so the oil from the pizza, has probably been soaked in by the paper, which makes the box unsuitable for recycling. Now, since we selected the wrong answer, we were deducted some points, because in the end we contaminated the recyclable waste. And we are also given the correct answer, which would have been the general bin. If we would have clicked this at the first try, then of course we get points for picking the right answer. And we're still working on a more sophisticated point system. So for example, if you score multiple times correctly in a streak, then you get more and more points. But this is some extra that we'll add later. Let's look at our progress with implementing the game. Last week, we successfully drafted the web app. And by that, I mean that the basic coding has been done. And now the game is ready to be polished and some extra things to be added. We also collected more than 20 potential questions or potential items that we think could be interesting to be included in the game. Now it's time for us to get in touch with the waste managing company of the university. They're called UNI-ECO, and they are the experts, and they can verify which bin the different items should be thrown into. And lastly, we addressed a feedback point that we received from the jury after the progress reports. They said, if this game gets implemented, make sure that it reaches a wide audience of students and employees. And so we made a promotion plan, which I'm going to talk more about in the next slide. Our promo plan includes a couple of ideas about how we could reach people and get them to play the game. For example, we thought about placing posters near bins or in the canteen. So basically at places where people are throwing away something or are generating waste when unpacking their food, things like that. So in these moments, they are most likely to be triggered by this recycling game. Another idea is to organize a face-to-face promotional event. Since in September, most students and employees are going to be back on campus, which is a good opportunity for us to reach, many people at once and tell them about the game. And lastly, once you play the game, you are able to save your score. And by doing so, you're going to participate in a raffle. In the raffle, we are planning to give away some prizes for participants at random. Because we want to reward participation. We want to simply reward being interested in recycling, regardless of how much you knew before and therefore how good your score was. So yeah, this is our idea about the game and the promotion plan. With this, we hope to reach a sufficient number of people at our campus so that we can have a positive, observable impact on recycling at Utrecht University. Thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, please shoot them at us. Joel and I are curious and would love to answer them. Thank you.
That was perfect timing. Thank you very much.
Great.
What a wonderful presentation. So any questions, please chat them or write them into our chat function. I know there's a Q&A function there, but we really want them in the chat function because that way we can have them, and then anything we can't go through, we can share with Gergo and UL. So I have a question for you. This is just a minor detail, but in Ireland, we're allowed to put pizza boxes into the compost bins because they will break down. They still have food waste in them. Is that not the case in the Netherlands?
That's interesting. I think that recycling practices are pretty location specific, depending on what facilities are available.
Sure.
The information I just told you, I retrieved it from sort of a waste app from the Netherlands, which tells you per municipality what should go where approximately. So I think that's fairly reliable. But as I said, we definitely want to contact the specific waste managing company of the university. Mm-hmm. After all, they're gonna take the waste and they know what they are able to and what they're not able to do. So yeah, that verification step is very crucial to make the game reliable.
Sure, sure. We have a question from Victoria Mudra in ELTE. Do you have questions about how to reduce or how to avoid waste in your quiz?
How to avoid waste?
Yeah. Or how to reduce it?
That's a good question. We haven't thought about that, I think. Could be an interesting one. Okay, I'm going to take a note of that.
That might be for version 2.0 or something.
Yeah. I mean, we certainly thought about putting in items which may be very obvious, but because of that, it's it's a trick. Like, can you spot the tricky questions from the non-tricky ones? But that's a good one. Thank you, Victoria, I think.
And then we have a question from Uni Krishnan. Will a uniform waste policy to begin with in the EU help make it easier for people to follow?
That would be lovely. That would be a great achievement if you can do that. But I mean, as far as I know, recycling facilities have their own capabilities, and that really differs per technologies differ per country and things. So I think that is still far away. Even a national policy would already be a great achievement, because at the moment in the Netherlands, for example, every city and town has their own specific rules for what can be and what cannot be recycled.
Okay, so it makes it very difficult then. You can't have a uniform quiz that goes out to all.
No.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Working on it.
Yeah, that takes some working.
Yeah.
We have a question from Elle Hegarty, who asks, would you do a live version of the game for your promotional event? For example, with 5 physical bins and different items. It could be a good way to get people involved.
That's a great idea, actually. That could be part of the face-to-face promo event in September. Good one, yeah. And we need to get one example of each item, and then we can play it physically. Great one, thank you for that.
Yeah, you're getting lots of information or suggestions from the hive mind here, which is great. One of my questions, Gergo, is what communication platforms will you use to publicize? So aside from posters, like, are you going to, what communication channels will you use within Utrecht?
Yeah, of course, we're going to use social media. I didn't include it here because that's obvious. So we want to use some social media sites, for example, from the Green Office, who are partners with us on this project, potentially even the Utrecht University platforms. I guess it depends on whether we're allowed to or not. Yeah, maybe mailing lists, or if teacher is interested in using the course, we will definitely sit down with the Green Office communications team. They offered their help and make the promo plan more detailed and see what possibilities there lie.
Very good. And is this going to be focused on students or students and staff?
Students and staff, both, since they both equally use the bins, and I'm sure both crowd is interested in recycling.
I bet.
So both.
Great. And a question from Laura Brew. How can people be more aware about the recycling categories if they don't have access to technology? If, for example, if they can't play the game? So if people can't have access to your quiz, do you have suggestions on how people could be more aware about the recycling categories that they have?
So something that Utrecht University does is that on the bins, they specify a little bit what you can place in the bins. So for example, it doesn't just say paper, but it says clean and dry paper, which is already a bit narrower category, and out rules some wet paper, stuff like that. Yeah, I think there could even be more details. So for example, I remember when I visited the university, the Erasmus University in Rotterdam, they even had like a little checklist of most typical things that go and don't go in the bin. That could be something for, you don't need technology for that. You just need to go to the bin and you see the most typical items that you should avoid or can throw into the bin. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so that's all the questions, and all that's left is for me to thank you for your presentation, and best of luck. So just to let everybody know, our final session for the green sessions, we'll have one session every day with 3 or 4 teams presenting, and then our final session will be at 1 p.m. on Friday, where the Green Challenges teams will get together and have a learning session. So thank you very much. Thanks to all our participants in the Green Challenges session.